All right, Pez fans, thanks for tuning in. Joining me today live at the Pez studio is a longtime colleague, actually become a pretty good friend of mine, I would say, Rob Laybourn. Rob is the man behind the Armed Forces Cycling Classic, one of what I really think is one of America's best cycling events, best road races. We've been talking a lot in the last few years about the state of road racing in North America. And a lot of races have disappeared, but one that is going stronger than ever is the Armed Forces Cycling Classic. And that's what I want to talk to Rob about today is how is he doing it? What's his secret for success? Why does this race keep going? It's in its 27th year. But Rob, thanks for joining us. I'm going to turn it over to you and maybe ask you to just, for those of you my readers who don't know or aren't familiar with the race, just tell us a little bit about yourself and your role over there in Arlington.
Great. Yeah, Richard, thanks for having me. Like you said, it's just been a real pleasure getting to know you over the last few years. So I appreciate you inviting me to talk with you today. But as you said, I'm the founder and organizer for the Armed Forces Cycling Classic. It's an event that started in 1998. It's evolved over the years. It's now a 2-day event, 2 days of professional to amateur racing, as well as a non-competitive component called a challenge ride, open to cyclists of all abilities, as well as 2 days of kids races. So we have a lot going on in cycling for this event.
Awesome. Rob, so the weekend is called the Armed Forces Cycling Classic, but underneath that there's the Capital Cup, the Clarendon Cup, some challenge rides. Can you just sort of take us through the 2 days of activity, what event falls when, and maybe just explain a little bit about each one of those events and races?
Sure, yeah. The whole weekend kicks off 7 o'clock in the morning with our challenge ride. And it's like a Grand Fondo on a circuit. And so participants have 3 hours to complete as many laps as they can. So if you average about anywhere 21 miles an hour and over, you'll get 5 laps in. And if you complete 5 or more laps, you get a gold medal. 3 or 4 laps, you get a silver medal. And 2 or less, and you get a bronze medal. So we're rewarding your effort out there on this course, but it's open to everybody. So it's kind of like a bike leg of a triathlon, but it's not an official race. So you just kind of ride at your own pace, enjoy the scene. And it's a 13-mile course, closed to traffic. And that's how the whole weekend kicks off. After that completes at 10 o'clock, we then transition into our amateur races. We have a couple categories for some men's and women's. And then we offer our women's elite event, which is a pro Cat 1-2 for the women. Then we offer a kids race for children 9 and under. And then finally, after the kids race, we have our feature men's Pro 1 category race. And that completes the day on Saturday. Sunday, we take the circus over to Arlington, Virginia, because this all takes place on day 1 in D.C., Washington, D.C., right in front of the nation's capital.
I'm going to jump in right there because I think that's really an interesting thing. There's a new course, I believe, that for Saturday. Right. Let's talk a little bit about that because it goes right by the Capitol building, which is going to be super spectacular. I'll put a course map up, but I mean, that sounds like it's going to be pretty awesome.
Yeah, so we started the second day of events about 15 years ago, and it was always centered around Crystal City, or what they call National Landing. What we were able to do this year is actually extend the challenge ride into DC. And by doing that, we also transferred kind of the center of mass of the event, the start finish, into DC. And we're able to locate that in front of the Capitol. And so that gives us a longer course. And then after we're done with that, as I said, we close it down to a much shorter criterium style race.
Okay. And for people who aren't familiar with the geography, as I was not until I visited a couple of years ago, Arlington is right across the river. Is that the Potomac?
Yes. Yeah. So Arlington actually was originally part of the District of Columbia when our country was formed. And however, the founding fathers didn't need that part of land on the other side of the Potomac, so they gave it to Virginia. And so now it's Arlington County. So that part of the original District of Columbia on the other side of the Potomac is actually Arlington. So we're right across the river from DC.
Yeah. No, it's if you don't know it and you're wondering, well, how far away is this? It's actually not. It's like it's right there. Like the Capitol is right there.
It's a driver in 3 Wood. Yeah.
Yeah. Does the challenge ride extend across the river? Does the course go across the river into Virginia?
Yeah. So the last 15 years or so, the challenge ride has just been in Virginia, up and down between National Land and Crystal City and Roslyn. But because we now have this component in DC, we've extended the course into DC. So instead of a 10-kilometer course, we now have a 21-kilometer course. So it's a longer lap. So it's really exciting to be down there, right in front of the mall and the Capitol. It's going to be going past a lot of the historic monuments
Yeah.
that you could just see all day.
Yeah, okay, that's going to be really cool. All right, then on to Sunday. What's the schedule look like for Sunday?
So Sunday, yeah, we as I said, we bring the circus over to Arlington into the neighborhood called Clarendon, and this will be our 27th edition for the Clarendon Cup bike race, which is again a criterium style course. It's 1 kilometer. The top elite women do 50 laps. The men's pro one race is 100 laps.
All right, one thing that I wanted to ask you about is as I'm looking around your website and I click over on your sponsor link and I do a scroll down here, I see a few interesting things. You know, one thing that has been plaguing and troubling road racing in North America has been sponsorship. And when I look at the list of sponsors you've got listed here, many of these companies they have nothing to do with cycling, and yet they're here. These are some big name companies behind your race. Can you tell us a little bit about just the sponsorship model that you're working with? How are you able to get so much interest for your event from non-cycling brands and reach a much larger corporate audience for support?
Yeah, I think that the success we've had in part has a lot to do with this challenge ride piece that we started 15 years ago. And by offering this component, it's a lot easier for companies to get behind because it's not just an elite professional bike race. It's something their employees can do. We offer a corporate challenge so their employees can come out. We have an armed forces challenge. So we've really found a formula that reaches across a real specific sponsorship niche of bike racing. And so once we kind of bring them into the event, then they see what a wonderful and exciting community event this does offer, and that then gets them to kind of step up and do more.
What is it about supporting your event that really appeals to your sponsors?
We have at least 4 pillars of the event. So we have the bike racing, which is kind of the core. The whole thing is built around. We have this challenge ride that really offers ability and access for cyclists of many abilities. We have the kids race, which brings the families out, and we also have a charity component. And so we found a real nice collaboration between our branding of the Armed Forces Cycling Classic with a charity called TAPS, the Tragedy Assistance Program for Survivors, that's connected with the military families who've lost loved ones and service members throughout the year. So it's a great charity. It connects well. But I must emphasize this is not a charity event. We don't require fundraising, but we invite people to make donations and to fundraise. Mm-hmm. And that by setting it up that way, we're able to provide 100% of those proceeds to our charity partners.
So, Rob, in the past, Boeing has been your main title sponsor of the event. This year, it's switched, and Amazon is showing up there on top. Can you just tell us a little bit how the shift there has happened and what that means for the ride?
Yeah,
the race?
So I think it was a real kind of a natural, organic movement. Amazon has their HQ2 right there in National Landing, Crystal City. And so they've been enthused, excited about the event for a couple of years. And so they decided that this was an event that they really, it had a good match with a lot of their culture there locally, and cycling is important to them. And so they stepped up from just a kind of a supporting sponsor to taking over the naming rights of the event. And that's why it's called the Amazon Armed Forces Cycling Classic. Boeing is still involved. They haven't really changed their support. We just kind of shifted them over to sponsoring our Armed Forces Challenge, which is one of the categories in the challenge ride.
Okay. And is it true that the one of the race courses goes right by the Amazon building there?
Yeah. So where they're planned to build HQ2, there's under design, but it is located right on the course. So during the challenge ride, as the people come into Arlington, they'll be coming off the bridge right in front of the Pentagon and then down Southeast Street past Amazon's HQ2.
Wow. Okay.
And we'll have a water stop there. We have Conti's Bike Shop is going to be set up there. So we'll have a nice presence right there. So when you come in, there'll be people cheering you on.
One of the things that I saw as I was doing just researching for our interview was that you've got a program called Corner Adoption, which I'm imagining that sounds like something that's going to be pretty fun. Can you tell me more about that?
Yeah, so when we started reaching out to some of the clubs to get involved, I kind of needed some volunteer assistance. I wanted the clubs to get more engaged with the event, to maybe help us with course marshaling. And so I came up with this idea of adopting a corner and then having your club come out and have a party. And what that is evolved to is we now have 8 or 10 clubs that come out and set up tents. They have grilling, they have parties, they have music, and so we're really encouraging these clubs to come out and have a great time. And so what we've branded it our Reto de Fiesta because District Taco has been sponsoring it for the last couple of years.
And so is it like a bit of an overblown tailgate party in every corner? That's
Yeah,
kind of
well,
what.
not every corner, but yeah, that's what we do. So a couple of the clubs come out with DJs, cheerleaders, like I said, grilling, music. It's really what we found is kind of tapped into the different cultures of these clubs that are coming out to really come out and make this one of their highlight events they want to participate in every year.
All right, and another one of the events going on, you mentioned this a little bit earlier, but I'd like to hear more about it, is the Corporate Challenge. I mean, there's so many corporations involved in sponsoring this, and that's kind of like guys like us who used to probably play golf. Well, cycling's become the new golf for guys who are in corporate jobs. So tell me about the Corporate Challenge.
Yeah, so the challenge ride itself. As I mentioned, we have a couple different categories. We talked about the general registrant can do it. We have what's called the Armed Forces Challenge, which Boeing is our sponsor, and that's really any general registrant when they register, tell us what service branch they either represent or worked for. We track all the laps of all the service branch individuals, so the Marines, the Army, the Air Force, and so forth, and we determine who has the most laps. And then we also have a corporate challenge. And so a lot of these sponsors have a lot of individuals in the company that ride. And so we've created this component called the corporate challenge. And so companies enter it as a team, and then we track the laps of all their employees or participants of that team. And so that's a challenge that we track the most laps by the total group, but also the laps by their top 6 riders. So the smaller company that may have a few ringers, maybe they have a chance to win overall. And then the other piece of the challenge is we do invite, as I said, these companies to raise money for our charity partners. And so we do recognize the company that does raise the most money.
That just got me thinking a little bit. I'd like to hear a little bit more about the pro level, some of the teams that you've got coming, because you've got some big name riders. It's on pretty much everybody. Everyone knows about this who's doing racing, who's racing across the U.S. But you've got some riders coming from outside the country as well. Can you just tell us a little bit about what kind of level of competition fans can expect to see in the pro category?
Yeah, so in fact, this year for the men's race, we've kind of made a little adjustment, and it's just an invitation only now. What we found last year was, we certainly invite teams to come and they sign up, but then the rest of the field kind of gets filled up by a first come, first serve. And it's what we really are finding is that the teams we want to invite, the teams that have like national champions or UCI teams, that caliber, we're going to fill our field up with those first. And so we're taking a different tack this year and just inviting the teams that we know are going to meet our standard. And then that way, it also, by doing that, I feel it'll help the developing teams understand what they have to do, where they have to evolve to get to a point to be able to, attend an event like ours. But the other piece that I just kind of tacking on to the corporate challenge, we also, as part of our sponsorship package, we have these partnerships with some of these local companies that sponsor these teams coming in. And so, for instance, the Project Echelon team there, that's going to be actually sponsored by Amazon this year for the weekend. And so we're able to support the teams a little more than we would, that a lot of the events do, by, not just offering housing, but comp entries and other travel support. Virginia Blue Ridge is going to be sponsored by Deloitte this year. So we do have some pretty major corporations helping out with the sport.
Okay. And what about on the women's side?
So on the women's side, Virginia Blue Ridge, Legion LA, CCB, there are some of the traditional teams that will be racing in the U.S. We'll be having those all attend.
Rob, you and I first met when I joined you and some of your fellow race directors at the NAPRD, the National Association of Professional Race Directors, year-end wrap-up a couple of years ago. So there's a lot of other races going on in the U.S. and the directors, you and those directors have formed a body or part of the body called the NAPRD. Can you tell me a little bit about what the NAPRD does, what its role and how it functions in cycling in the U.S.?
Yeah, it's really a collection of. It started out really as the group of race directors that were putting on the national, caliber events, the Pro Road Tour, the National Race Calendar, whatever we want to call it. And we kind of came together as a body to really kind of form a professional association. And so we want to help one another. We want to provide advice and counsel and recommendations to our governing body. And again, just help other events grow and get to a level where they're hosting, elite national level events. And so one of the things that we did in this last year is we transitioned from sort of a invite membership to more of an open membership. And so now any event that sanctions with USA Cycling as a race can join us. And that way, we really do want to bring in more developing races so we can help impart our knowledge, because ultimately, my objective is to ensure that there's more race directors that are putting, high quality events out to support the teams out there, to give them more opportunity to race. But on the other hand, we also are focusing on things to provide advice and counsel with our governing body. There are, decisions that are made, organizational setup they have that we'd like to provide feedback, because we, as members of USA Cycling, as we provide lots of revenue to them as events through our insurance, sanctioning, and so forth. So some of the latest issues that we're trying to contend with and bringing up with them are things like voting representation. That's something that I think all members should be concerned about, and that we as a member of USA Cycling should have some kind of voice. And right now, I don't know what that is, because we don't have representatives on boards or committees that members can have representation over. So we have obviously the USA Cycling's board, but those are all been taken up by appointees and by the foundation. And so there's really no representation by event organizers, let's say, or the general population. The other thing that I really want to see come back is the national race calendar that is truly encompasses all the kinds of racing that we have. The last couple of years, USA Cycling has offered support of the ACC, which people know about as a criterium calendar. But what we really need is a calendar of all our country's elite events that meets certain criteria, so we can include the stage races, the road races, the criteriums, because that's really our calendar in the U.S. And by doing that, it can really accomplish two things. It can provide sort of a how-to or a pathway for events to evolve into, to get on that level, but it also shows teams what they have to do and how they have to succeed in the sport in the U.S. to kind of move up in the ecosystem as well.
Okay, well, Rob, that is going to be one super exciting race weekend, May 31st and June 1st. If it's not on your calendar, put it on your calendar right now, because I told you to. Rob, is there anything else that you'd like to say just about the event? I mean, we've learned a lot about it. It's going to be a really cool weekend for sure. Riding in front of the Capitol, great location. Usually the weather's fantastic. Great sponsorship, great turnout.
Yeah. The final thing I really do want to emphasize is, no matter where you are in your journey of event organizing, I mean, I started this race in 1998 as a local race with a clothesline to hang a banner to start finish. But over time, I accumulated knowledge and experience to kind of help build and grow this event to what it is today. And I just really want to try to inspire and really strongly recommend that people take their existing property and see what they can do to evolve it and have it, rise and grow and mature over time. Because we need that. We need more and more events in this country for our sport to grow.
All right, Rob. Well, thanks so much for joining us. I'm going to put a link to cyclingclassic.org is the name of the official website. All the information that you want is right there. We're going to put something up. The new courses have been just released as we're doing this recording, so we'll have something for that on Pez. Rob, thanks for joining me. Really appreciate your time and learning more about the Armed Forces Cycling Classic.
Well, thanks for having me, and thank you for all you do in our cycling media world.